But I think it's true, because there is a reality, isn't there, about what you are saying. There is a reality about it. And it seems to me that one of the things that you need to do with youth is to bring that reality, but reality of the life that they're going to face, and also the responsibilities of the Christian life. I mean, grace is a tremendous thing, but grace brings responsibilities. And how do you go about that? I mean, for instance, just wanting them to get involved with other local Christians of all ages. How do you go about that? Here you are in your youth work, giving them mission, vision and that. Do you deal with those things of how they're going to live on a day-to-day basis, and some of the needs that they're going to face and the problems they're going to face, and who God is to meet them in those needs?
I think the training of how to live on a day-to-day basis is much more fundamental than saying, all right, now we're going to fly you out to Romania. There's going to be an orphanage, etc. There is a reality in that, and there is a life experience that is valuable, and there are things that they will gain from that is extremely valuable, and will ultimately transform and cement their faith in many ways for many of them. But in order to live day to day as a Christian, they really need guidance in that, I would imagine, in many occasions. I had to learn how to live as a Christian. I'd grown up in a Christian household, but this had not been a household that had given me a faith that I then immediately replicated, etc. I was in that rejection stage, and at that stage I was involved in the same things all of my other friends were involved in. When I became a Christian, things necessarily had to change. I had to drop being in the kind of music band that I was in at the time. I had to drop the girlfriend I was with at the time. Obviously not in such a violent fashion.
Off a bridge.
I was nice about it. But no, and these are things that, again, can only really work if we model how they work in our lives. And everything applies that we've said so far. We have to be sensitive to what stage they're at, to how much they can do, to the expectations we can hold for them. We can't say to somebody who has been used to drinking every night for 10 years that, all right, from Monday morning, all right, you're off it. It's only skimmed milk. Okay, that's it. We can't do that because it's not realistic. God wouldn't expect that as being realistic, I believe. I think God also works not with all people in a bam way. He sometimes works slowly.
He does, but sometimes he
does. But sometimes he works gradually, and he changes, and he's still changing my heart every day. And I hope with the other Christians that I know that he's changing our hearts every single day. And I think that has to be one of the expectations of our youth work, is not that it will be a change overnight, but that as JT has said, we need to be in for the long haul. We need to expect the long haul, and we need to expect that we're going to have to maybe hold some hands in that time, and guide people through in a way that is relevant to them and sensitive to them.
I mean, you must see this even more so, JT, with the unchurched people coming in. There must, probably isn't for you because I know you, but for some there will be a real temptation just to preach the law to them. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not. Here's the rules of the club.
And of course we're not under law, are we?
No, exactly. But at the same time, those principles which God put into laws that we should live by for our own good are the principles that we want to communicate. How do you communicate those to people without communicating, this is the law, do it? How do you do that?
Well, that's a really good question, Doug.
I know it wasn't on the pre-prepared list, but I like throwing in one every now and again.
But this week I've had an extensive conversation with one lad who his parents have split up a little while ago. He's been shuttled back and forth. It's been pretty horrendous. And his response to that was to smoke weed. Now, do I just tell him, give up the weed now? He knows it's wrong and whatever, but I'm going to love him through it. And he sort of made a profession, but as you may know, we don't necessarily take a profession of saying the prayer,
That's right.
and we don't push that at all.
It's the life behind it,
It's,
isn't
and
it?
also it's when they get to a place to get baptized.
Yes.
That's what we count. There's another girl, another lad who recently became a Christian, made a profession of faith, right? And he keeps pestering his girlfriend to have sex, and she says to him, and she's not a Christian, she says to him, "But that's wrong, you're a Christian now." And he says, "But it's okay, God will forgive me."
Dear,
So,
oh dear.
you know,
yeah.
but that is just the way they are, and we have to educate them. Well, I tell you, one of the things that we don't do is simply come out with, laws. We do preach grace. We do
Yes.
preach. Look, the reason to live the Christian life is not because God says that's wrong and this is right. It's because you love Jesus so much you want to please him. What makes, and we usually pick one of the guys, what makes him come all the way down here to meet her on a Friday, and he's got to catch 2 buses and stuff? It's because he loves her, and it changes the way that he acts. And we're not soft, we're really quite hard. When it comes to low-level stuff like smoking, we hate smoking, all right? But a lot of our youngsters smoke, and pretty well all of them in the end give up. But they'll hear me talk, we got a little smoker's corner, and when they go off and do this, I'll walk by and say, "Give up the fags, give up the fags." And we make a bit of a joke of it. But it's not as if, they know that they're accepted,
yes.
they're part of stuff. In fact, I said to one girl recently that, look, forget the fags. That's another issue for another day, all right? But you've got a serious drinking problem. Sort it. And, we felt that we needed to address that issue first, because that's more destructive for her now, and then to try and help her through the smoking thing at some later stage. So, it's... law is not the answer.
No, it isn't, is it?
But they need to understand. Like when they become Christians, we do explain. Like I said on another program that when a lad came up to me and said, "I want to become a Christian," and they see all these cool young people, they see them worshipping God, they think, "Oh, I want to be part of this." And I said, "Okay, well, to become a Christian, you're going to have to stop sleeping with your girlfriend." I also told him all the good stuff, and I gave him 1 or 2 things that he needed to look at, and I was basically saying, sit down, count your pennies, can you build this tower?
Yes.
That's what I was saying to him, but using language he understood. And I said, "So what do you want to do? Do you want to think about it, or do you want to make it, or do you want to become a Christian?" And he said, "I'll think about it." And he didn't come back. Hey, okay.
And you've got to, it's this balance, isn't it, between preaching the law, which isn't going to help them at all, because it's just going to come down on top of them, and allowing grace to get right to the extreme where it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, as Paul says in Romans, because we're under grace, shall we continue to sin? God forbid. But at the same time, we don't become... Oh, well, I have to be careful, because otherwise people are going to start picking me up here. We don't become perfect overnight. From our perspective, we don't become perfect. Fine, Jesus has done the whole work, but it hasn't been worked out in me all at once. And we do have to have that, in the right sense, that tolerant attitude, not to sin, but to encouraging these people to move on with the Lord and take a step by step dealing with it.
Absolutely. I mean, Jesus didn't say to us, he didn't say go out and be policemen. He said go and make disciples.
Yes.
And making disciples is a much slower process than simply nicking somebody for having a quickie behind bike sheds.
Yeah.
But it's one thing that we sometimes do get a little bit wrong is that we see ourselves as being law enforcers too much. We're not law enforcers, and everybody is a person, like a personal person, not just somebody who needs stopping there, starting there, pointing that direction, pointing this direction. The Holy Spirit is working, and we need to give the Holy Spirit.
And He's within the person,
absolutely.
Isn't he? He's doing the work
He's
within.
the one doing the intimate work.
Yes.
And too much of the time we hold up a list of rules and say you got that wrong, you got that wrong, you got that wrong. rather than encouraging people to say, well, just, you know, what's the Spirit telling you? Listen to the Spirit, you know, listen to what the Spirit is guiding you.